Hey, good afternoon, or maybe it's good morning or good evening. I'm not sure where you are. I'm Scott
It is.
Tempesta. I'm not sure where I am either. I'm Scott Tempesta. This is our 15 Minutes of Fame video series. And as you can see, I'm really into the protection thing. I don't know if you happen to notice the branding on this. I don't know if you can see that. Is it clear enough to you? If any of you people want one of these, let's go to the website. They're there. They're not much money. And step up, cheapskates. Okay, there we go. All right. I am lucky enough to be joined today by Aly Di Nas. Now, you probably know of her maybe from, I don't know, like the 15,000 pictures she has on her Facebook page. And so if you thought she was a model, you would be right to some degree for sure. But Aly is a woman. I was going to call you a chick, but probably isn't the right thing to do quite yet. A little later on, I'll call you a chick. You have come into this sport in, I would say, a relatively unique fashion. And a lot of people don't know your story. And frankly, I hardly even know your story other than, about the year that we dated. Other than that. Of course, it's a total lie, total fabrication. Aly's horrified right now. Like, can you cut this part out? Like, no, we never dated.
This is going to become like tabloid fodder for all of sailing for
I
like
love
the
it.
rest of eternity. Now
I love it. I love it. So do me a favor. Let's talk about some of your accomplishments in the sport, in case people don't know what you've done, the boats you've been on, the type of racing you've done. Give us a rough idea of some of your accomplishments in the sport.
Sure. So I did. Let's see. I did Far 40 Worlds 2015. We were second Corinthian for that. I was on a boat called Insanity. Really great crew. Love those guys. Melges 24 Worlds in 2016. I was with the Canadian crew for that. Kind of a long story how I ended up with the Canadians, but another super great time. St. Bart's Bucket, Laura Piana. Had an undefeated season in 2017 on our J111 partnership, which was really amazing. We just, knocked it out of the park on that season. J70 Mexican Nationals, took first Corinthian on that one in 2018, followed by the North Americans for J70s in Valle de Bravo. There was, King's Cup this past year. I got the opportunity to go race in Thailand on a TP52 Hollywood Blue. And I'm also really big into match racing. I'm currently ranked 76th in the world as a skipper, but typically I'm on the bow. So if it's a fleet race, I will be on the bow. If it's a match race, then I'm on the helm.
Yeah, that's enough with your accomplishments. It's making me feel vastly inferior already.
Oh, please.
so how did you get? Doing bow on a Transpat 52, no easy feat. I couldn't even, frankly, even comprehend like what actually is. I never pay attention to what's going up on the front end unless something goes wrong, and I'm sure you know all about that. Then of course I yell. But
I do know about that.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. Every bow person does. Got to have a thick skin up there. So how did you get there? Let's go with bow girl TP52. How'd you get there? What's been your path?
Well, specifically to the 52s, it was sort of a random chance thing that began when I was down in Mexico and Valle de Bravo for the J70 North Americans. One of the people who was on my crew, Valentin, he was also sailing on a Mexican TP52 called Patches. And he introduced me to the owner, and the owner was kind enough to give me a shot. And so they brought me down to Acapulco and gave me a tryout. Tryout went really, really well. We picket fenced that weekend. And so from there, I started sailing with him. And from that point on, I got a couple of other offers to do PAC 52s and then the King's Cup, and sort of ongoing. So we hope that trend continues.
So stop right there. So one doesn't just get on a Transpac TP52 and do bow. First of all, how did you know exactly what goes on up there? It's a pretty demanding position on a pretty demanding boat, no doubt, right? And it takes a lot of different skill sets to do bow. Really a lot, as you well know. I don't have to tell you that. But how did you get the skills to do that? How did you put yourself in a position to go up there and do the bow and not completely fuck it up?
I started small. So when I first came back to sailing, the first thing that I started out on was a J44, and our bowman on the J44 was a former Marine. He was absolutely hysterical, but so like fully in control of everything that he was doing, and I was really inspired by watching him work and just watching the command he had of his domain up there. And I was like, that's what I want to do. Like, that's my position. That's where I want to be. And so I started out small. I was in the Beneteau 36-7 fleet locally on Long Island Sound, where I grew up. And, from there, I started trying to take on, bigger and better roles. I did FAR 39.5s. I did other, as time went on, I tried to pick more and more competitive boats and competitive fleets. I tried to make sure that I was getting a mix of asymmetrical and symmetrical experience. And so each time as I moved up to something bigger and better, I just made sure to, as best as I could, keep my mouth shut, learn from the people that had been there before me. And I picked up so much as I was going along. And I really owe a lot to those people who took the time out to explain things to me, show things to me,
Sure.
talk me through things that may not have been obvious necessarily in the beginning. And so I started with these smaller boats, and then I started getting, more invitations, mainly by word of mouth. I mean, there's no easy way to get onto another boat other than to have somebody say, hey, I know somebody that can fill this position when there's a need. And so I moved up to boats that were in the 40 to 55 range, and started traveling around the country and things like that. And the more I traveled, the more people I met. And it was partly a matter of being in the right place at the right time, and partly a matter of having spent the time, really hammering it out, doing every race I could on every boat I could, every weekend I could, every weekday I could for years. It was a progression. I wouldn't have been able to do it when I first started, but
Right.
after some time, it all kind of made sense.
So just a last question on the bow stuff. So what was it about the bow? So you get on a boat, you're looking around at all the different positions and, owner, tactician, trimmers, all that kind of stuff. What was it? So for me, yeah, I did bow when I was a kid, on like a Ranger 26, and it's okay. I mean, it was okay, but I wanted to move to the back of the bus. Like that to me looked like that's where it's happening, back there. So what was it about the bow though that you went, oh yeah, I want to do that? Like, for most people, not girls, everybody, it's intimidating as hell to go up and do bow.
Yeah, I think that's part of what attracted me to it. It's such a personal responsibility position, and I'm a big personal responsibility person. Like, I really like to own whatever project I'm working on in whatever arena I'm doing that. I want to be in charge of my thing. I am 100% happy to, eat the humble pie when I'm the person that has screwed it up. And, if I've done a great job with it, then awesome. But I wanted something that was, that was me, that was my domain. I wanted something that was a really big physical challenge. I work out a lot. I'm a very physical athletic person. And so for me, that seemed like a really physical, athletic, challenging position, and the kind of position where nobody's going to cut you any slack if you mess it up. Like, I wanted that, knowing that you're being trusted with this. And if you aren't doing it correctly, you're going to need to own that. And that's kind of the way I operate a lot in life. And so it just made sense to me, and it felt correct to me to be up there.
Good, good. So you've achieved some things that a lot of people can never do. Truthfully, just doing bow. I mean, how many TP52s are there? So therefore, how many bow people are there? It's a pretty small club. So you've done a lot of these things, and we'll talk a little bit about your match racing a little bit later. We have a bunch of reader questions, and so we'll get to some of those, and one of them is about your match racing. But in the overall sense, in the macro, where do you want to go? Where do you want to go in the sport? Or do you want to go anywhere? You're just happy doing this?
No, I definitely still have a million goals that I have not reached yet. Yeah, no, I'm always trying to find the next thing. I'm always trying to learn more. Also, I always find one of the great things about sailing is that there's always something else that I don't know. There's always something else that I can learn. And so I'm really trying to develop myself as I go along and just become a better sailor myself. In terms of forward looking, I think that I guess my goals are twofold. One of them with respect to, you mentioned the match racing, and so with respect to the match racing, my main goal is to make it onto the World Match Race Tour, and of course, if I'm on there, I definitely want to win it. So that's a huge one for me, making the World Match Race Tour, getting to go around the world, do these match races, hopefully take home a prize or two. Big on my radar. And then the other thing that I'd love to do is make it to the 52 Super Series. There are, at the moment, really not, I think there's one woman sailing in the 52 Super Series. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's one, and there are none on the bow. I would love to have a shot at that. And if I ever get that, I would definitely train myself into a hole to do it. I mean, it's an absolute aspiration. I realize that's a lot to ask, and it's tough, and it may never happen, but certainly something that's on the radar as an aspirational goal.
You know, it's fascinating that there's only one female, and I'm not sure you're not referring to the owner. I mean, you know, there's a woman who owns a boat. You know.
Yes,
and,
that is true. Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Yep.
But it is a little surprising, and because God knows there's plenty of qualified females to do various jobs on these boats, right?
Yep.
But you know, because it's such a male dominated sport in so many ways, you know, that just that alone is an obstacle. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that, some of the obstacles that are in your path, have been in your path. How much of being a female has been an obstacle? And I know that's a knife that cuts both ways. In your case, it just so happens that you're beautiful, you're friendly, you're engaging, you're obviously intelligent and articulate, and it's why we dated for a year. I mean, I was sorry to have to let you go.
Sorry, I feel like you're going to give me a big head here.
No, but these are all true things. I don't blow smoke. So how much has that been a hindrance, and how much has it opened doors that maybe wouldn't for maybe an average person?
So it's been both, and I think I'll start with the positive here. There have been times where I think that I probably was given a shot on a certain boat or another because of the fact that I was a woman, or because I am maybe a little bit different aesthetically than you know what people usually had. You know, I think that's definitely, yeah, there's a novelty factor that maybe plays in there that has gotten me onto a boat or two. And I think that's definitely true, although obviously nobody's filling out a comment card afterwards to tell me whether this was the case or not. But in almost every case, I have been invited back to pretty much every boat I've ever been on. So however it is that I got on there, if it was a novelty factor entry, obviously they were happy with the job that I did because I came back afterwards and did it again. And I think that if they were unhappy with that, then I would have had a very different result with that. You know, on the other hand, there are other boats that either just won't take me because I, you know, either am a female or I am the particular female that I am. And I've had that happen before. I've also had, you know, some kind of unpleasant experiences on boats that took me on board and then, you know, really went out of their way to make it super unpleasant for me, which I don't, that's a thing I don't understand. Like,
A lot of rage out there amongst men, a lot of rage.
Yeah, and I don't understand why. You know, and I will say that, like, in general, there have been, you know, like, I really have overall zero complaints about men in the sport. I mean, I wouldn't be where I was now if it were not for the fact that there are so many men that have, without even really being asked very much, have gone out of their way to teach me things, to just take me on the boat exactly as I am, and expect nothing other than that I would do the same job that they brought me on to do as they would expect out of any other guy that they brought on the boat to do. I've learned a lot from so many people. There are several people that have been mentors to me consistently over years and have been so great in helping me learn things. I've had the same thing out of women as well. And, you know, I think it's great that there are so many people that are like that. And there's, you know, I think that it comes down to, there are a few bad apples in every bunch. And I've encountered a couple of those bad apples, but by and large, I mean, people in the sport have been super, super nice to me, and I'm genuinely appreciative of that. I really am.
But just based upon your looks, I mean, you sort of had to have almost your whole life, I would imagine. You've had to deal with dudes and the good ones, but just sort of the rampant, semi-aggressive, sexual overtones and undertones and direct hits, hitting on you, and maybe even a little bit of stalking. I don't really know. Um, I just wonder so I got to assume you're accustomed to that to a large degree, right? And then you got into sailing, and did you find it any different, worse, better, the same?
I'd say probably about same. There, like I said, for the most part, most people are super normal and cool. That goes for the outside world. I mean, look, you'll walk down the street and most people are normal and cool, and then there's that one dude that's gonna lean out of a car window and be like, "Hey, baby, nice ass," and you're like, "Why? Like, when did that ever work for you?" Like,
That was
like
me,
what
by the
was
way.
this?
I don't know if you know that. That was me at that one time in the car.
That was probably you. That was probably you.
Yeah.
It'll probably be you again. I mean, if we're being honest. Uh,
This interview is not over. Trust me. I got some stuff to say about you. No, I'm kidding. So overall, a plus experience in terms of guys.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, there have been some some really strange experiences. I had one guy who and he may or may not watch this, and if he does, like, shout out, we're still cool with each other, but he pantsed me. I was standing in the companionway talking to somebody, and he didn't want me to be there, and he literally just pantsed me in front of everybody. And the reaction from the rest of the crew was like pure horror. It was actually like this poor kid who was like below me in the companionway.
Right.
I've never seen a look on anybody's face like that. It was like he just watched a murder. And it was, I still don't know
You,
why that was the go-to response to me
you
standing
didn't
in the
you didn't
companionway.
put a knee in his nose? I mean, you didn't go bam. I mean,
No,
once you
honestly,
no.
I was so shocked. I really wasn't sure what the hell to do. That was the only time in my life anybody's ever pantsed me. Like, it's never happened before.
Note
So
to
I didn't have
self.
a skill set for
Note to
that.
self. Next time see Aly, pants her.
And so that, I mean, and like I said, I was pretty pissed off at this dude. And you get over it. I try to keep a fairly cool demeanor about this kind of stuff. Also because, you don't necessarily know where anybody is coming from. Um, you know, I don't know. But I put it past me, and I was, I still wanted to sail on this boat. I adore that crew. And that guy was, that particular person happened to be instrumental in teaching me how to do bow. So, balance of things, I don't think that this person was out to get me. I think he probably thought it was going to be funny at the time. And I'm sure to him it was hysterical, but to me it was like, holy crap, I'm in my underwear. Like, I don't know what to do right now.
Of course, it's not funny. It's alarmingly aggressive, and I guarantee he wouldn't do that to a dude. Um, First of all, because he'd probably get his ass kicked. No, he would get his ass kicked, and secondarily, well, why not just do it to the cute chick? I mean, it's just, I don't know who he is. I honestly don't care, but it's really a bullshit thing to do. And but you rose above it, and it's worked out, and so you don't seem to hold a grudge. I would.
Yeah, no, I mean, no hard feel. Look, like I said, I mean, this same person was really instrumental in teaching me a lot about the position that I really wanted to learn. And I don't think that this person was against me. I think that I think it was just a thing that happened in the moment. I mean, I had other people, I've had people take photos of, like, as I was hiking, like, take photos of my behind hiking, which is a really weird thing to do. Um,
Good
and
shots.
that, you know, yeah, like, some of these things, and I have, so on one of the boats that I'm on right now, the tactician on this boat refuses to address me. So if he wants something done on the bow, he will talk to my male mid bow, and he refuses to address me in any way, shape, or form.
What?
Yeah, no, 100% serious.
Really?
And I've called him out on this. I've called him out directly to his face and in front of the crew. I noted to the owner that this person, when he sends out emails to the crew list, specifically excludes me off the crew list. Like, it's clear to me that he doesn't want me on the boat. Um, and it manifests in this really strange passive aggressive thing, that he'll He'll happily talk to my male mid-bow and whatever else, but he will not address me. If there's a set to be done, if he wants the
Really?
space, if he wants whatever else, like, he'll talk to the mid-bow and not to me. And it's you know, I'm sorry for him. It's small, but you know, I'm still there.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess so. That seems really strange to me.
It's super odd.
Yeah, super. And it continues to this day. The owner hasn't stepped in and said, dude, what the fuck?
Yeah, no, so I addressed it myself mainly. I think the owner is willing to do it if I so ask, but he appreciated the fact that I addressed it on my own. And so he didn't need to step in as of now. We'll see where it goes from here. And I
Okay.
suppose if it's, you know, I'm not trying to go like run to teacher or anything. I just feel like, I mean, I personally would never do it to anybody on my boat. I feel like, you know, I have my own team for match racing, and I can't imagine treating somebody like that on my own team. And I wouldn't do it to anybody else. So I think it's something that that person really needs to work on and remediate. But yeah, hopefully it'll get better. We'll see.
Hey, real quick question on match racing. So it's self-funded?
Yeah. So I have a team of approximately 6 to 7 people, and we travel around the country. We have raced in, our main base is out of New York. We race at Oak Cliff Sailing Center generally. That's where most of our match racing occurs and all of our training occurs. And then from there, we have been traveling around. We've been to Detroit, California. We've done San Diego at your home club, San Francisco, Long Beach. And we were supposed to do Florida at Sarasota for the US Match Race Championship qualifier, and hopefully still for Chicago. We're waiting to see if Chicago will happen or not. But that is all self-funded. So I currently am not sponsored. And so for me to get the team to these places, some of my team are younger and don't really have the kind of, you know, wherewithal to do that sort of thing and just be flying around everywhere to do this. And so to the extent that I have been lucky enough to be able to send the team, I've been sending them, you know, to each of these events, and we've been really enjoying all of it so far. It's been a really cool ride to just travel around the country and do these competitions.
It's really awesome. Let's go to some reader questions here while I got you. I could talk to you all goddamn day, but let's see. Sven Savin, I don't know. Fuck. These guys pick the weirdest handles. He's at Whitby, where this is. And she probably has several stories about jerks who put her down or stood in her way. And she probably has at least as many good stories about great guys who encouraged her and actively supported her sailing. And you've gone through all that. And this is more a shot at me, I guess. Instead of promoting negatively and implying that all men are sexist bastards, why don't you focus on what she loves about the sport? In other words, do her the courtesy of treating her like a strong sailor rather than a weak victim. So you don't even need to comment that. I'm going to comment on that. So why in the fuck, Sabin, whoever you fucking are, why would you even assume that that's going to be my go-to position? Dick, you're lucky I don't ban you. All right, let's go
to respond to that too. I mean, like I said, I have had, you know, several mentors through this who have been incredible, and so many crews that I have raced with that have become like absolute family to me. I love these people to death. I am so lucky to be in contact with all of them, and sailing being what it is, a majority of those are male. And yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, like most of the dudes in the sport, you go, like, I love you guys, all of you. And that's one of the things that I love about the sport, is that there are, by and large, a grand majority of people who are really willing to teach and bring new people into the sport. So
that's awesome. Left Shift from Seattle. Okay, yeah, nothing. Blah 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 blah. Is she on the Med Cup circuit? No, not yet. But here she's got a couple other really good questions here, I think. How much authority does she have in line calling? Or is it all done on GPS time and distance, folks, back in the cockpit?
So that depends on the boat. On certain boats, we use Expedition. And in cases where we have software, then obviously the main reliance is going to be on pinging the line at the beginning of the race. And we will go off of that line ping. And I am up there as a fail-safe and as a second opinion. And certainly there's, yeah, I'm doing more up there than only calling a line. If there's, a question as to an overlap, something like that, then I'm also up there for that purpose. Other boats are not using Expedition, and in that case, on 2 of the 52
Excuse me.
that I've raced on, we didn't have software, and so everything was, we weren't using a computer, and everything's on me. And I had such a great line call the first time that I raced on patches. We were in Acapulco and we came up to the line, and I'm looking at the other boats, and they're like a full prod behind me. And I was kind of getting like a little antsy. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I have this right, but they're all the way back there. Like, I hope I'm not OCS. And I'm watching the line, and I'm like, no, this is right. I'm right. I'm definitely right. And I was right. I was dead on it. Like, it was a great, that was like one of my best line calls. I mean, we hit it exactly at the gun, and everybody else was like, a prod behind us and struggling to catch up. So that was a great one. But the day before that, I had been calling a start, and at the party, the owner said to me, he goes, "Hey, Aly, do you wear a watch when you're racing?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course." And I showed him the watch that I still had on my wrist from earlier in the day, and he's like, "Oh," because my usual bow guy, like, he never does. So if I had known that you have one, I would have paid attention.
Jesus Christ.
Like, oh,
Well,
okay.
it is interesting. There are very few times when, you are on the line and you notice nobody else is like, what are they thinking? Why aren't they on the line? And then you go, well, maybe we're a minute early, or "Hey, where's the pin again? Like, am I misjudging this completely?" You feel like, what the hell? And then you go, we just wanted to start. That's all.
Yeah.
And some people do really come in super late, and it's really kind of disorienting in some ways. How are you this late? Right?
Yeah, no, it's like a little bit of a mess if you're like the only one that's not. And ironically enough, that happens, every once in a while in frostbite too. Like, if I'm doing frostbite racing in dinghies, and like sometimes things just won't work out. Like, there's a big shift. It's winter in the Northeast. Things get weird, and like all of a sudden nobody's near the line. And it's just you, and you're like, did I do this right? Like, what time
Right.
am
Right. I know. Left Shift has a final question. How does she team with a bow partner and or a mid-boat partner for jibe sets and Mexicans? You don't have to go
I?
too far into that, but just briefly.
Yeah, no, it's pretty standard. No matter what size boat I'm on, things are, it's the pretty standard song and dance. I have really, really great people who partner with me as mid bow, and I've done mid bow myself as well, and so I get both sides of that equation. We have pretty standard setups for what we're going to do. I discuss a lot coming into a mark, so if I see something shaping up in a certain way, I will discuss that with my mid bow. I'll check back in with the back of the boat and make sure that they have the same plan that I do. And we more or less know if I see that somebody's not in a position that I need them to be in, then I'll tell them, like, hey, like, a little closer up here, back further there, or whatever else. But for the most part, we've got the choreography pretty well down. And typically, when you've gotten onto certain boats, people who are up there with you kind of already know the choreography already. But one of my boats, I spend a lot of time Wednesday nights training new people to do this kind of stuff. And in that case, I will go through step by step in detail. Okay, so this is what we're going to do next. This is what's coming up. We're coming into the mark. Let's go over it one more time. But a lot less needs to be said. The more the team has been racing together, and the more that my mid bow is used to what the dance looks like. So it kind of depends on the boat.
He has an interesting follow-up question to that. I think that you basically answered it. Does your boat have written scripts for maneuvers that are practiced?
So certain boats we go out and practice. So partnership, my J111 that we had a really great run with. When I was on partnership, we used to go out and practice fairly often compared to other boats. I think a lot of boats don't practice, and some can't. So one of the boats that I race on, the way that their country's vacation structure works, there's just, you're not allowed enough vacation time for people to spend time on practice days. And so it all depends. If it's a boat where you can practice, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we practice these things a million times. We had, coaches come in from north, and we spent time drilling over these things, really working down to make these maneuvers as picture perfect as possible, and it was really, really on point. On other boats, we don't necessarily have the option. It might just be Wednesday night that's considered our like quote unquote practice. And so, but yeah, no, it's a pretty standard. It's not a script per se, in that there's not like a given call and response, but it's a pretty similar communication time to time.
Sure. Well, I've been lucky enough to have you on my boat a couple of times, and you can tell practice is not in our lexicon at all.
Okay, yeah, but do you need it?
It's like, let's just do this, and I think we're okay at doing this thing. We don't need to practice.
Like, other than needing you to practice a little like meditation or breathing exercises, there's not much practice needed there generally. So.
You talking about me specifically?
No.
Kind of. And listen, you wouldn't be the first person. A super anarchist by the name of Sunseeker has a very simple question. How long did you go out with Scott for? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. The question is, how did she get into match racing?
Yeah, so this was, so match racing, I started out on bow in match racing. I was called to fill a spot for another team out on Long Island that needed a bow person for that particular event. And we had a practice day beforehand, and I went out with them, and I was expecting more or less your typical, okay, we're going to set, we're going to douse. I didn't realize that there was this extremely involved pre-start that includes dial-ups and, just very specific bow work for that kind of thing. And, so much more to do, even on downwinds, just, if you're going to battle it out with somebody and they're going to luff you and you're going to jibe hot and you've got to, hang on for dear life to the clue of your spinnaker because you can't make your pole in time. And I was like, damn, this is bad. Like, I got to keep doing this. Like, this is everything I wanted out of sailing and then some. And, it was brutally physical and really technical. And I was like, this is me. Like, this is my thing. So I stayed with that team through the end of that season. And then it was suggested to me from one of my longtime mentors that I should start my own team, both to get some more skill set from, viewing the boat from a different perspective, that the way that I, as a bow person, interact with everybody else on the boat would be differently colored by seeing it from the other end. And also to, just round myself out generally as a sailor. And I was terrified of it at first. I mean, when I first went to start driving that first day, that same mentor and friend of mine who told me I should do this picked me up from the train station when I came out from Manhattan with a thermos of gin and tonic because I was literally shaky about it. Like, I was so concerned about, I'm going to do terribly at this. I can't handle this. This isn't, like, what if I don't know how to do this? And, I went from being totally out of my element to being like, all right, yeah, like, I think I've got this, like, I had great coaching staff there and everything else. And so it's been a progression from there. And again, I'm always learning something. Like, there's always somebody who hands my ass back to me and I'm like, okay, like, gonna work on that for next time.
Right. But essentially your primary motivator was liquid courage.
In the beginning, yeah. Yeah, no, it definitely was. Yeah, no, every once in a while there may need to be like a gin lemonade before a race. It may happen. It's, not everyone, but if it's scary, sure.
Sure, that's your story. You stick to it.
Yeah.
Swim sailor from Utah. Okay. Also a super anarchist, whatever that means. Does Aly get paid to sail? I think the answer is no. Is that true?
No. So I have been offered and I have not taken money to do it yet. I don't think that, given my current situation, that I could, would it be super cool if I could do that? Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. But being able to, put together a full-time salary out of doing this sort of thing, I think is probably not on my radar right now. And so I don't want to foreclose myself the opportunity to, be able to sail in certain classes that are, Corinthian only. And I've done a lot with the J70 class, and I have a J70 that I race with regularly here on Long Island Sound and in Newport. And so I don't want to foreclose myself that opportunity unless I can be sure that it's really going to pay the bills. So
Sure.
would I never do it? I mean, sure, I do it, but right now I'm not. So.
Got it. Is the modeling in general, I think IG means in general, swimsuit stuff, all part of a career gig that goes well beyond sailing?
Yeah, so it's not exactly a career thing, but I do have sort of a, side gig doing some modeling things. I've done print stuff. I've done a lot of work for clothing companies. I have done runway shows. I've done TV ads. It's a side thing. It's not, again, if I thought that I could make a full-time living out of that, I'm sure that would be fantastically glamorous and wonderful, but I'm a little conservative on the risk about that sort of thing. And so I keep it sort of as a side gig, and I really enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. And certainly when something pops up, I'm happy to get into it and do it. But yeah, a lot of what you see on my Instagram and Facebook and social media and things like that is just me being me. I mean, it's part of what I do and what my life has been. It's been, dance, and it's been photography and modeling and things like that. And so it's not something that I'm forcing. It's just something that's part of my life.
It's interesting. I'm glad you brought that up, because that can be interpreted. So people don't know you and they just see your pictures, right? So you could be viewed negatively by like people going, oh, she just wants to get, she wants to show how cute she is and she can't be much of a sailor. And, what's with this image? People can kind of look at it that way, but it's just part of who you are and what you like to do. And, oh, by the way, what's wrong with a little bit of, I wouldn't, maybe glamour is the wrong word, but what's wrong with a little nicer look, to the whole thing? I don't have a problem with it. I know a lot of people, you have a lot of fans, a lot of followers, and it's probably helped you to kind of go, listen, this is who I am. I'm not pretending. I just like to do this stuff, right?
Yeah, and it is 100% who I am. I mean, prior to coming back to sailing, and I had this like so not great junior sailing experience, and so I did other things for most of my younger life, and I was on dance team, and I was a competitive ballroom dancer, and the modeling stuff has been going on for a while, and I was a DJ. I used to DJ nightclubs and travel around the country and to different countries and whatever else, and do nightclub events. And so for me, I mean, sequins and glitter and makeup and cameras and all that other stuff and performance, that kind of stuff is just, that's just me. Like, I'm a performance person. I like to do that kind of stuff. And so, especially like there are some people who absolutely, like, I will show up on a boat and I'll have a bow in my hair. And that is, I mean, I was on dance team Pop Squad. Like, if you were going to, go represent your whatever, you had a bow in your hair with the colors of whatever you were representing. It's just, to me, it's like the most natural thing in the world. And, I know that I've heard from other women who are like, what else? Like, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing all this stuff? And it has nothing to do with me feeling like I, need to go put on a show. It's just like something that I would do. Like, if I were going to, a Red Bull soccer game, I wear like a bow in my hair that has those colors. Like, it's just, all of that is me. And it would be weird to me. It would be weirder to me to suppress that and show up in like a pair of boxy khakis and a cotton t-shirt, as opposed to like showing up in, whatever I wore to dance class last week. Like, it's just, it's normal for me, and it's just Tuesday. And so, I think people sometimes get the wrong idea, but it's not anything. It's just sort of, who I've been for my life.
It's your thing. I tried to show up on the boat with a bow in my hair. It just didn't go nearly as well as it did for you.
Was it the right bow though? I have like some glittery ones I could lend you.
Really? Thank you.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm gonna turn this anarchy thing into like a do-rag. That's gonna be my new look. Yeah.
Nice. There you go. Thug life, 100%.
Word. Let's see. Where are you from? You from?
I am originally from Long Island. I grew up in Huntington on Long Island, and I now live in Connecticut at Stamford. So Long Island Sound pretty much my whole life. I briefly lived in DC and a few times in Italy, but keep coming back to blue water. These rivers don't do it for me. So
Right. Somebody wants to know what your day job is. Do you want to say what your day job is?
yeah, I'm an attorney. My day job is to be in-house counsel. I do finance work, and I support a derivatives desk that's pretty active in trading. So it's kind of incongruous to the rest of me, I guess. But yeah, I'm a lawyer in real life.
Nice. Um, Here's a good swim sailor from, oh, this is another guy. Oh, it's the same guy from Utah. Geez, he must have a thing for you. What is, like we all do, what is Aly's favorite boat she's raced on?
Okay, so I guess this is like a two-part answer. So my very favorite in terms of like the people who have become my absolute family, who I like adore to death because these people are just the most wonderful I could ask for. The J111 partnership, the owners of that boat and everybody else on that crew are, I mean, just like unequivocally and without any change amongst anybody in that crew, the most supportive people, and of all of each other. And everybody is, laughing and joking, and they're funny, and they care about what you have to say. And every experience with them has been the most stellar thing I could ask for. And so that is definitely one of my favorites. And then aesthetically speaking, Rio is hands down the sexiest. And so I'd say that probably ranks up there in the favorites as well. And Patches is also up there in my favorites, both aesthetically and in terms of most of the people on that boat, and the owner. Like I just can't
Yeah.
complain.
I can't believe you didn't mention Anarchy. I'm going to cut that part of the interview out.
Okay, you need to bring me back out to race. I haven't even been on the new one.
You do have to come out here. Once we all go sailing again, assuming that we all will go sailing again,
Yes.
we will. We'll have you
We
out
will.
here.
It's gonna happen. I can't wait for it to happen. Oh my God.
I know. It's so incredible. I mean, yeah, I don't. Let's see. Here's an intro. It's relatively basic, but okay. From the perspective from the bow or from the tiller in a match race, what makes a good crew as opposed to a normal crew?
I think that the main thing for me, especially now that I have my own team, but even as a bow person, I think that really it's somebody who can, suppress their, I guess like, suppress their emotions to a degree, and maintain a level of decorum, and who can get over their own ego. I think that especially owning my own team now, as it were, having people that will yell or scold is really, really just not okay with me. And having been yelled at and scolded by people who may or may not have had a reason or a right to do that, I don't think it helps anybody. And my philosophy on Tropique is that if somebody screws up, you'll be the second to know. Having been that person that has screwed things up myself, I know as soon as I've done it. I've known even before it's happened. Like I've seen something going out on the bow, nobody else is aware of it, and I see it, and I'm like, oh my God, this is okay. And nobody needs to tell you that. Nobody needs to yell at you for it. Like you already know you did it, and you already feel bad about it to begin with. So like obviously you're gonna fix that yourself. I'm happy to talk about it, acknowledge it, and then put it aside and debrief it later. But like, do not be that guy on my boat that yells at somebody else, because it's not for you. And I don't think anybody needs to be yelling at anybody. All it does is create derision on the team. And if you are the kind of person that can, even in the face of intense pressure, especially in a match race where everything is kind of going haywire because you have somebody that's like shoving you up to the moon and back, you need to be able to hold that down and work under that pressure. Trimming can be taught, bow can be taught, these mechanics can be taught. Being able to regulate yourself, like that's a life skill. So for me, that's probably the top.
Interesting. It is hard not to, like, when something goes wrong. I know certainly as a skipper, when something goes wrong, it's hard not to go, God damn it. Like, fuck, to have that figured out. Why are we doing that? Like, it's really the exact wrong reaction. But
Yeah, I know, and it's hard to like you because you feel that everybody's gonna feel that reaction. We all feel it. Like you watch anybody screw up. You could be the trimmer watching the pit guy screw up. You could be the skipper watching the bow guy screw up. The bow guy watching the skipper go take a flyer to nowhere, and you know that what tactical call even was that? And like you, but like you've got to like we're not doing this right now. Like,
I don't have that. I was born without that. Keep it down, bro. Just hold it inside. Yeah, that just as people like to say, there's no filter whatsoever. But I don't berate crew. Just if something goes wrong, it's it's a quick from me, and then hopefully we continue on.
yeah, and then you move on to the next thing. Like it's just gone and it's done, which is
Yeah,
part of the key.
yeah, that's true.
Like
That is,
you can't be still bringing that up 4 races later. You know?
what? I've never done anything like that.
You've never done it to me, for what it's worth. So
That's
I
good.
believe that
Okay.
statement, but I can't speak for the rest of your crew.
You haven't sailed with me enough to really know, but that's true. I'm not much like that. And I would say that as I've gotten a little seasoned, let's use that as opposed to old, I don't. Okay, mistakes happen. I mean, I never make them, of course, but you guys make them, and it's okay. It's fine. I mean, it's not that big of a deal in the scope of things. We're out there trying to work together as a team. Hopefully, finish really nicely, and if there's a mistake or two or whatever, so what? Did we have a good day on the water overall? Yeah. Were we glad to be out there? Yeah. Will we do it again next weekend? Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. If it's too much of a bummer for people, they won't go. I mean, there are a few, you probably know, I do. There's notorious yellers, and you just have to wonder how the hell they get people to come back. I mean,
and you notice it's like different people though. Like their turnover is crazy because why would you if you didn't have to?
Right. I know. I don't. Yeah, I don't much care for it, but yeah, I suppose that's a part of the game for sure. Hey, like I said, I could talk to you forever, but I'm trying to keep these interviews shorter, and I never seem to quite manage that. But I want to thank you so much, darling. Really, you're just fantastic, and I'm glad that we get this chance to show people, share this, and show people, who you are as a person. And you're absolutely wonderful, and you're one of my dear friends, and I want to thank you very much.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate you having me on here and giving me the chance to chat. This has been awesome.
You're very welcome. Talk to you soon.